Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Aragon Live, our weekly video podcast. My name's Jim Lundy, and with me I've got Betsy Burton, Craig Kennedy, Adam Pease, and the Aragon research team. So each week we do these calls, we do instant analysis of tech news and deals and all things happening in tech. We select certain topics that we think are worthy, and we do some instant analysis. So today on October 4th, let's talk about search wars. So you could call this sour grapes, but it's kind of nasty when Satya Nadella goes to testify against Google in an antitrust case that the federal government has against Google on ads. And, really, Bing had his chance, is what I would say.
Mhm.
And they've blown it over the last 20 years, and Google has gone on to dominate. But just because they didn't get the search business from Apple and they haven't made Bing one of the go-to things for people to use, feels like sour grapes to me. But I'd like to hear from the rest of you. Betsy, what's your take?
Yeah, I think it's interesting on this one. I think that this is um that this is going to continue. We're going to keep seeing this fight between Microsoft and Google with adding more and more capabilities into it. That's sort of my thought.
Yeah, I'm kind of there too, Betsy. You know, the Bing definitely lost the search battle. It's interesting how it's being reworked with generative AI.
Hmm.
Um, Bing with generative AI, its chat is actually pretty good. So
Right.
it'll be interesting to see how the Bard and Bing chat and all this starts gaining traction and where that goes. It's search is not the battle anymore, really. It's going to be generative AI.
Yeah, I think we've, in general, if I think back to the last couple of months, we've been pretty impressed at the AI capabilities that Google is adding
Mm.
across all of the tools and the platforms. And I think that's going to really help them out a lot. I think that's a
Mm.
real strength right now for them. I think might have some depth of AI in terms of the platform, but I don't see it spreading across everything as richly as it is, or certainly not being as promoted as well as it is being with Google. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I'm actually thinking just the opposite, but
Oh,
I think
interesting.
Google's technology, I think they have deep AI technology that they are they are historically terrible at marketing stuff. Microsoft has a go-to-market better than Google has.
Yeah.
But I think Google's technology is pretty rock solid. I mean, it's if you look at their some of their demos that they have, it's deep, well thought out. I think in the end, I think they'll do very well.
Yeah.
I think that Microsoft has an edge right at the moment.
From
Yeah, one thing I just
from
throw out though, Google made a lot of tools free for marketers like Google Analytics.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
have you ever heard of Bing Analytics?
Yeah.
So Google has
Yeah.
made analytics free and helps clients with their SEO, duties. I mean, the Google AdSense reps help our team. So where's Microsoft?
Hmm.
I don't think
you,
they've ever reached out to help a marketer once.
that's a really good point, Jim. It's interesting because OpenAI and really set the bar in making so many of their AI capabilities free for people to use that it's kind of forcing a lot of these other vendors to do that, at least some base capabilities. That's really not in Microsoft's DNA. I mean, it
No,
may be more in Microsoft, in Google's DNA. It's really not in Microsoft DNA to give stuff away for free, no matter what it is.
it's true. It's very true.
What about Zoom? Jim, is that yours?
Yeah, I was at Zoomtopia
Oh, yeah.
Monday night and all day yesterday. Very good event. And they did announce the Zoom companion, AI companion for Zoom meetings. And we actually have it. We turned it on. We had to upgrade our client. So basically, it can take notes, action items, kind of similar to what WebEx has actually had for the last several years. They actually announced Zoom Docs. So You can actually generate, write emails and stuff like that. Not sure that Zoom Docs, which is kind of like a wiki, was really that well understood. The Work Vivo, which is kind of like their digital work hub, they talking about that. So they're really kind of trying to branch out to be more than just meetings, phone, and chat. Not sure how they're going to land that, but they're definitely messaging it with pretty much a brand new management team, except for the CFO and Eric, the founder and CEO. A lot of executives that have come in from Cisco, from Poly, and a lot from Microsoft. So brand new executive team. They were definitely on message. Overwhelming number of features announced for things like contact center, where they're still trying to make their contact center something that people want to buy. But I would say all hands on deck. Zoom is on point. Their AI stuff looks solid, but like I said, Microsoft had WebEx Assistant for 2.5 years.
Yeah, yeah.
But a good event, well attended, good buzz, and product stuff looked tight, I would say.
Good. Interesting.
Hmm.
Are
Zoom
they?
Clips. I want to try out Zoom
Yeah.
Clips, which is you can clip some of the recordings. So I mean, look, they can do moments in the video recording as well. So anyway, good stuff. Zoom has definitely grown up.
So what do you, I mean, just off the cuff question, what's going to happen to them in the long term?
Well, they're over 4 billion in revenue.
Yeah,
It's a big number for somebody to take on. Microsoft did try to buy them when they were much smaller. Microsoft's not going to buy them now.
right.
I see them. I see Zoom acquiring things. They tried to buy Five9. We got some news, actually next up, we're relative to more consolidation. One other bit of news I'm just going to throw out because we didn't have it on the list, but it was announced Monday. Mitel is buying the Atos Unify division. So there is consolidation kind of going on here. So that kind of combines a European UCC provider with a US mid-market provider. So it's all Mitel now. They did have just a call. I'm writing a blog about that, but there is some consolidation. So I would expect long-term Zoom becomes an acquirer. They did buy a conversational AI company called Solvy. They did announce the Zoom Assistant virtual agent, part of their contact center. But I just would say they're kind of getting big, and with the Slack deal, 27 billion from Salesforce, not going that well for Salesforce.
Right.
Not sure that somebody says, I want to take on, really buying Zoom to take on Microsoft. I'm not sure anybody wants to take that on.
Yeah, yeah, looking at the revenue numbers, Jim, I mean, they went from Q4 2019 of like almost 200 million to in the Q2 2020 to 600, like 600, 700 million to Q2 2021 of like $1 billion. I mean, that was like explosive during the pandemic.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Speaking of acquisitions,
Yeah.
just announced this morning, Nice is acquiring LiveVox. So those that don't know, Nice is a customer journey management, customer experience company. They've got contact centers and focus on a lot of AI with a lot of their modules that they have on their platform. Um, LiveVox is a contact center as a service, really focused on proactively reaching out to customers. Um, Nice has got a long history of both partnering and acquisitions of leading technology, and this really fits into their overall strategy quite well. LiveVox, Jim, I know you know them quite well. They were an innovator in our last year's Globe for ICC, and Nice has been in our conversational AI and ICC Globe for the last couple of years and doing quite well as leaders. So good marriage. It'll be interesting to get some more details from them as we talk to them.
Just
Cool.
a quick advertisement on that one, Craig, since you mentioned the employee experience, we do have a tech arc for You mentioned customer experience. We do have a tech arc for employee experience that's going to be out in the next week, so keep your eyes on that.
Very nice.
Adam,
Yeah. So there was a recent article that discussed the attempts by several experts to basically use different methods to try and implement watermarks on AI generated content. And this essentially involves using different kinds of distribution techniques when the text that the AI model generates is selected to signify that it was generated by an AI and not a person. And so if you basically run an algorithm as you're generating, you can distribute the way that the model makes its choices about what to pay attention to in a certain way. And then you can kind of see the trace of this in the text if you run another algorithm on it. That's the basic idea, at least behind AI watermarking. But it turns out that when experts do try and do this, it is very easy to get around. And
Yeah.
this is not surprising because it really just entails jiggling the text around, changing some terms um, to get around a watermark, and at least as far as people have conceived them. And this was something OpenAI themselves were working on a lot for a while and then kind of abandoned. They took down their AI generation classifier because they decided they said that we should be basically ready for a future where we can't tell the difference, and their tool is not good enough to identify whether GPT-4 is human generated or not. And so yeah, I think it just goes to show that that's kind of where we are with these models, that they are, at least for written text in certain areas, really reaching the point where they are indistinguishable, and we're having trouble finding technical methods, or that doesn't mean they don't exist yet, but we're having trouble finding technical methods to ensure that we can really tell the difference.
Yeah. So another little advertisement for Aragon research. We have recently released a toolkit, which are end user principles for the use of AI. So I agree with you, Adam. Solving this technically is going to be really hard. Organizations need to put in principles in their organization that guide how people use AI, regardless of the technology. So it's going to have to be it's going to be have to be some human work saying, here are the guardrails and guideposts, and then supported by technology. We can't depend upon just technology to solve this problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. Agreed. Yeah, this is a long, I mean, the watermarks are just the latest, right? We've had technology trying to say, is this generated by AI? And
Right.
all of this has failed.
I think generally, I think generally employees want to do the right thing. They just don't know what the guardrails and guideposts were. So if we at least give them some guide rails for how they should treat AI and how they should leverage AI or not, then they're probably going to do a lot of the right thing at first. The watermarks are just to pick things that maybe people are missing or nefarious purposes. So, try the guiding people first.
all right, Amazon, Anthropic. So Amazon's making an investment in Anthropic, but I think that's just the tip of the iceberg. I think what 1.25 billion. This is after they got 400 million earlier in the year, but in 2022, Google invested in Anthropic, a 10% stake.
Yep.
So there's a fevered frenzy around LLMs, and here's my take. You guys tell me if I'm wrong. Amazon is behind on LLMs, and they're trying to catch up. But remember, Google had a stake before Amazon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So this is what.
I actually wrote a blog on this, Jim, and it is your take is exactly what I was writing about. It's Google had invested, I said 10% sure in this. That was right around the time when Microsoft was, courting and then, investing in OpenAI. And I think it was a reaction on Google's part to say, how do I get in the game? But then they doubled down on all their internal AI development with, the DeepMind's team and the Google Brain team and combining that. And I think Anthropic was feeling a little left out. And so they went and found AWS and said, who was way behind on generative AI. And I think this gets them pretty closer to getting caught up. And actually, they could become a player with Anthropic's technology is very good.
Yeah,
But
there's
how do you think they're going to implement this from from a technology point of view? I hear what you're saying. How are they going to do this from an organizational point of view? I mean, I don't know that I think Amazon has had as clear of a vision and messaging and marketing in this area. Are they going to really be able to take advantage of it from a business point of view?
Yeah, so they have their whole AI platform that they came out with, their Bedrock platform, and they've got different foundational models in that. So they've got Anthropic's just one of them. They've also got Meta's foundational models are coming. They're not there just yet, or at least the latest versions are not there just yet. But they have a platform in place already for that, Betsy. So as everything Amazon, they are toolkit providers as opposed to solution providers. Um, and that's probably where their strength is going to come from. Um,
Well,
yeah.
and by the way, just to pile on that, both Google and Microsoft also announced that their AI engines can support multiple LLMs. So they've kind of neutered
Mhm.
Bedrock. And there is an LLM that Amazon has from Lab 128 in Mountain View. So yeah.
I think the numbers are there's now three major players in there. I think that's really the bottom line on that. It'll be interesting.
All right. Google. So Google is going to throttle there's the free Gmail and paid Gmail is being used to spam people, and they're going to put controls in place to prevent bulk sending without verification, yada yada yada. I think it's the start of a reaction. Google free Gmail has become an attack vector.
Hmm.
This is the start of it. I don't know that it is enough. I don't think they've taken a strong enough stance on this. We've raised it to them. They said they're on it. So at least they're starting, and this will stop a lot of it, I do think. Um, but I wouldn't call it a really big, strong statement. It's just that they are recognizing it. They are starting to take it seriously. And, and by the way, there's a way with some of the tagging, some of the security terms like, DMARC, et cetera, to basically tag, mail as spam.
Hmm.
So,
Yep.
Interesting.
Johnson Controls.
Yeah, so Johnson Controls, if you say Johnson Controls, most people don't know who they are. They are a huge um, building automation, industrial automation company focused on automation and security. Um, so think of large data centers and all the infrastructure. Johnson Controls is deep into that. All building controls, smart buildings. They are also very deeply involved in the US government, as well as other governments around the world. And so they were the subject of a cyber attack. They just reported that last week. Uh, Story is still unpeeling on that, but huge concerns from NSA, national security, because a lot of the buildings that are part of our government are managed by Johnson Controls, and their belief is they have like floor plans and security knowledge now of a lot of our federal facilities. So there's unclear as to whether it's a state actor, although there is definitely speculation on that. So there's big concerns at the national level on this one. I've got a blog in process for this, so it'll be coming out later today. So I'll know more by then.
Yeah,
Yep.
Scary stuff.
Adam.
Yeah.
OpenAI.
Yeah. So DALL-E 3 was recently released by OpenAI, though not to all of its users. It's only being rolled out to beta users right now, and it's only happening through Microsoft's Bing services. And so, for those who don't know, what DALL-E is DALL-E is an image generation model, and DALL-E 2 kind of really set the standard. This was back in 2021, set the standard, or sorry, early 2022. Excuse me, early 2022 for what was possible with image generation. It was the first time we really got to see images that felt like they might be close to being ready to be able to be used in a marketing campaign or in an advertisement. And now with DALL-E 3, there's really been a step up. And in particular, the one thing I do want to highlight about this is that DALL-E 3 is by far the best model when it comes to generating text on an image. And so if you've seen some of the AI images, ones that feature text quite often feature blurred text that almost looks like this made up alien language. It looks like real words from a distance, but up close it looks totally gibberish. And they have not completely solved this issue, but they've made major strides with DALL-E 3 to the point where you can definitely see this being closer to something that a lot of brands might be ready to use in the near future.
Yeah, one of the things I think is interesting about DALL-E is that it is so straightforward to use. It's not as complicated. I've played with some of the other ones, like Dream Studio and some of the other ones, and they're just a lot more complicated. So I think that's a real advantage that they've got with DALL-E.
Yeah, Dream Studio is the open source one, and so it's definitely, I think, a little more. OpenAI really provides you the out of the box kind of experience that a lot of people are going to want, especially in business.
Right. You can start just typing things and trying things out versus some of the other ones are a lot more complicated. You have to join groups and yeah, it's just seems a lot more complicated.
And that seems to be the theme with OpenAI in general, right? All of their tools are very friendly to use.
Right. Well, it's get everyone addicted to the tool and then pay, charge for it down the road.
All right, last one, Intel.
Is that a Craig?
Is that a me? All right. So Intel. So they have a planning on spinning off as a separate entity their programmable chip manufacturing process. This is technology that they acquired back in 2015 from a company called Altera. They paid 16.7 billion for it at that point in time. It's interesting. They are the classic acquisition and then build it up a little bit and then spin it off into its own little organization. It's also very much aligned with what Gessinger is doing to get back into the manufacturing business. Get away from a lot of the diversion that they've had over the last 4 to 7 years of getting back to what they do very well, which is foundry and manufacturing chips.
How do you think this plays into we've been discussing on previous calls about all the, Chinese chip wars and blah, 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 all that whole thing. How does this play into that? Is this going to be manufactured in the US?
So I don't know where the manufacturing is on this.
Okay.
We're chatting before about certainly their manufacturing in the US is ramping up, right, with all of the investment from the federal government, and Intel's very focused on that. There's also, I think, Jim, you were mentioning there's a manufacturing facilities in Europe as well, right? That they have.
Yeah, they just went online, I think in Ireland with their new foundry,
Right.
firing that up.
Right.
So
Okay. And they used to have a reasonable manufacturing going off outside of Portland. I mean, I remember visiting that a couple of times and it was, enormous.
yeah,
Okay.
well, I mean, look, there's a race on. I think there's a race to diversify manufacturing as far as having supply chains outside of Asia.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So Arizona, Ohio, both Ireland and then mainland Western Europe, all those foundries are being, funded and developed because it takes years to build one of those.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All the while, they're trying to starve Huawei and China on chips. So there's a lot of actually kind of Cold War stuff going on
It
that is
is.
not in the mainstream press.
Yeah. I had read, I think I mentioned this to you a while ago. I had read that there was some some backup plans to get engineers out of Taiwan in case there's a Chinese invasion of Taiwan, to get a bunch of these chip engineers out of there as fast as possible. It was a US plan to get them out.
Mm.
So yeah, I think there's a quiet, cold, Cold War in terms of chips.
Well,
Maybe not so quiet.
there's spying. I mean, if you look at the definition of Cold War, there's spying going on, which, government, corporates, intel's not new, but it's at a fevered pitch. Ransomware that, Craig's got to know coming out of the state-sponsored stealing stuff,
Mhm.
and they hide behind, oh, we just want ransomware, but they're actually stealing, you know, business plans and mainly technology,
Mhm.
plans. So this is not for the faint of heart, but remember, one of the things for all the audience is that we've written about this. IT supply chains, where you buy your stuff and who you buy your stuff from, is becoming a critical issue.
Mm.
For example, Amazon had to sell a whole data center they had in China because it was infected with malware. And this comes back to the whole thing of one of our big pieces of advice from 2 years ago, almost three now, is back up everything. And to date, majority of enterprises we talk to have not implemented an enterprise backup scheme for their end user compute devices.
Yeah.
Right?
Mhm.
They do not have a backup strategy. And that's why, like Caesars, MGM Grand, Caesars got hacked, ransomware, and they lost everything.
Yeah.
So for $3 to $5 to back up all endpoints, it's not a big investment. And that's probably one of the easiest things to do to ensure business continuity.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So that's part of the reason why we're talking about Intel, moving factories around, with some of the ARM, TSMC also coming to Arizona, which is, a Taiwan semiconductor. Part of this has to do with supply chains.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, I do want to mention too, only because people have been asking me this privately, so I started doing some research. Temu, have you guys heard of Temu online shopping?
I've seen it, but I don't know
I've
anything.
heard of it. I'm not that familiar with them.
Yeah, so I had all these personal friends of mine who kept asking me about Temu. They're like, "What's with Temu?" One of them being my mother. And there's been some real concerns raised about Temu, Chinese owned, opaque corporate structure. They've gotten they've gotten a bunch of notification from Congress about, their business practices. So if you have people that are thinking about shopping on Temu, make sure they do some research on, where this business is coming. It's believed to be one of those, we've talked about TikTok in the past, one of these groups that's collecting a lot of information on buying patterns within the US. It is a Chinese owned company called PDD Holdings. And so they've been identified as a group you need to watch out for.
This is
Cool.
TikTok for adults.
Yeah, TikTok for shopping. And you know what? It's actually doing, I've never used it because my little radar went off immediately on it. But we got to keep our eye on it because it's doing, competitive to Walmart, Mart, and Amazon right now.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this has been Aragon Live. Thanks, team. Some great instant analysis. A lot going on in tech. We covered the highlights. This recording will be available on the Aragon Insight Network, as well as our popular trials, the Aragon Guest Network. And you may see parts of this, snippets, out on social media. So thank you again, team, and we will see you again next week.